I'm unmuted.
I haven't got. I'm very tired and I haven't put any makeup on.
You're audible.
Am I audible?
You're audible.
Right. I'm very tired and haven't put any makeup on because I've got to go to a fancy party later tonight.
Oh, good afternoon, everyone. It's been a while.
Got a fancy party,
Let me do
guys.
our advertising. Our
So
advertising for stream.
I will whilst Dave is doing that, I will talk through my fancy party problems. So I was invited to this fancy party 2 days ago.
Hmm.
This fancy party, they sent the dress code through as black tie. And I'm like, I don't know. I think I was either informed late or like I wasn't really supposed to be on the guest list and I'm a D-lister. I don't mind. None of that bothers me. But I was like, who has a black tie level gear in their wardrobe just sitting there? Like if I was ever to go to a black tie, like when I was living in London, you rent. Especially for women, right? Because, I mean, for men, it's a bit easier maybe because when you've got your black tie suit, you've got your black tie suit. It's your uniform, right? So you can just bring it out for each event, maybe some like, change your shoes or your shirt or whatever. But it's a suit. It's good. Whereas ladies, you've really got to wear a different dress depending on the season, the fashion trends. You don't want to go to the same group with the same dress twice, blah blah blah. So and these dresses are expensive and they're floor length. Black tie should be floor length. I'm like, I'm rarely gonna have need for a floor length gown, so I never bought one. I would always rent one. Anyway, so I've been given this invite and I was kind of tempted to turn it down, but I didn't because the lady's super nice. And I don't think she's not gonna be snobby like that. So I was like, do you know what? I reckon I can wing it from my wardrobe. But dear audience, Gemma was wrong. She could not wring it from her wardrobe. I have managed to get the dress I was supposed to be wearing for Christmas, which is not floor length. It's like a midi. I think I can get it because it's below the knees, so I can just about get away with it. But I have no shoes, so I had to go. I went, and like Tavistock is so small, and there's nowhere you can buy like a good quality pair of like pumps, something that's gonna work. So I ended up in the charity shop. Um, I will say they're a very good quality pair of pumps, though. I got like they're Russell and Bromley. I don't know if anyone knows that brand. They're really nice, and I got it for £10.
I do not know that
So
brand.
I'm okay. I feel like I'm okay, but still, it's been a little bit of a mad panic to put together. I don't know. Do you know? I also have. I don't know. I have this fear that I'm going to go there and everyone else is going to be like, oh, actually, black tie means this now, and I've just been so out of it that I didn't even realize that black tie meant jeans or something.
Wait, what? Wait, black tie means jeans?
No, no, no. I don't know. No, of course it doesn't. But I'm just so freaking out now that I'm going. Does everyone just like? There must be something more to this. How do I not? I don't know. It's just weird. It's weird. Someone tell me it's weird. See, Pez thinks I should. But Toshi also doesn't have black tie. He's not going. He does not have black tie. He's all right.
It is really weird, I think, to just be like black tie for my birthday out of nowhere. Like if I was gonna do a black tie special birthday event, I feel like I'd want to do it way early.
I feel like because she messaged me and she's like, "Oh, did you not get the invite?" And I'm like, because I was aware she was having a party actually, and I was didn't just thought I wasn't invited, and that's fine. I've only known her for like 6 months or whatever, so I wasn't expecting an invite, so I didn't think anything of it. And she's like, "You're supposed to get an invite," and I'm like, "Oh." So now I have the invite, and yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'm not a very good person at parties. I'm not.
What are you talking about? You're charming and cool. All right,
You say
I'm done
that.
with our
You're very
advertising. I'm
kind.
sorry.
You're very, very kind, Dave. I'm not. I'm just not very extroverted.
Mm.
I like. Oh, I don't know. People say that they. People. I don't know. Some people have been surprised, but I don't. I feel. I'm really like. If my natural behavior would be to sit at home and play Final Fantasy 14 and never speak to another person ever again. That's. Yeah. I don't know. Mahjong tournaments I find okay because it's very structured, right?
Yeah, it's very, very structured. So like you don't choose who you sit with. You don't really choose so much who you talk to except during lunch or breaks. There's
Yeah.
an activity. I guess that's cool.
I don't know. I find that maybe that's why I glommed onto mahjong quite as hard as I did. Because if people have heard this story before, I'm really sorry. But when I first moved to Germany, I moved to Germany on my own to do for my job, and so I was in a city with no one and no one. And then I got invited by the Dutch to a mahjong event, and I went.
Easier to borrow a
And
friend's gown than a friend's tuxedo. Is that true? I don't think that's true.
I don't have friends that have gowns. I mean,
But
I
even
have
if you did, like,
you've got to be the right
yeah,
size.
like the fit of a gown is so much more
Each
fussy
time I
than the fit
move
of a
my
tuxedo
head as well, you can kind of see a glimpse of the dress,
of your
like,
wardrobe.
so the other, yeah. Anyway, yeah, I was, and when I went there, I was like, oh wow, do you know what? I register, as you said, you sit down with people, you don't have to worry about where finding people, right? Because you know where you've got to go,
Hmm.
and then you go to eat, and then you go, and then, like, I don't know, there's no point where you're standing there awkwardly going, what do I do now? Who should I speak to? I don't know.
Hmm.
That's why I think mahjong tournaments are a great activity for the less extroverted of us.
It could be. It could be.
I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, so this is why today's got to be a slightly shorter stream because I've got to go get ready.
Got to go shop
Yeah, that's why
until you
my
drop.
face is completely bare of anything. I haven't slept very well because I have a 2-year-old.
Oh my
And I
god.
did my personal training session.
How has time gone so fast? What is
I
happening?
know, right? She's not quite 2. He's 2 in a couple of weeks. I've organised a party for him. I have already sent out the
Pardon
invites for
me.
that
So
party there.
sneezy.
And the kids' party is not black tie.
Oh no. It should be. It should be. You should really just be like, look, it's black ties. Steal this face's black tie.
Yeah, you're gonna steal the note. I should just start a makeup. Maybe I should just do a makeup stream immediately after this. Get ready with Gemma.
I think it's a good plan. Getting ready with Gemma, and you could just be your like dressing for the party stream. People would love this.
So Yoko says, when I hear about mahjong tournaments, way past registration or after the event. Is this America?
I was gonna say there's
America?
quite a few places. We're working on getting a calendar more together so that there'll be an official calendar of events.
I think Nama's working on that because they're working on a whole
Yeah, whole
WRC
qualification scheme for
qualification
WRC, yeah.
thing. So
And everything's got to be announced like 60 days in advance.
in a central location, is that
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get registrations. We're gonna post them on the Norma website at least,
okay?
and work on centralizing calendar stuff because I know other
So
folks.
did you say? Sorry, I didn't. Did you say when it has to be notified 60 days in advance? It has to be
Is
notified
it
60
60?
days in
Hold on.
advance on the Nama website because they could announce it in
Well,
their
they have
local
to get
paper 60 days in advance.
basically what has to be happening is they have to get us to approve the qualifier that it meets the conditions, which isn't a high bar or anything.
Okay.
Yeah, 60 days of public notice, which means that.
I would tighten that one up personally. I'd say that it must be published on the Nama website.
Well, we'll do it. We'll just do it.
I mean, you would do it,
because when they
I would
say, "Hey,
add
I'm
that
doing the
because
events. Here's my public
yeah,
notice." Yeah, it's easy to add, but we'll publish it on the website at minimum.
yeah.
So,
Okay, because
like, at worst, we'll have
public
of all
notice could literally be in their local paper.
I mean,
or on their local Walmart notice board.
and then yeah, we can. I think it's easy to amend that text just to say like
Yeah.
Norma will provide public notice on their website of all events that meet these qualifications.
Yeah, I think
minimum
you're
on the Norma site.
Yeah, I think because that's a key point. And I'm not saying you're working off the EMA structure, but that was a key point to the EMA structure. It has to be published on the EMA website. Like even before we had websites for each event, like sometimes you had to email people back in the day, so it had to be published as well in a central location. EMP says, when I was a kid, because I was so used to wearing formal attire for my birthday, I once told my parents I would wear my birthday suit to a formal event. My kid would love to wear his birthday suit to his birthday, I'm pretty sure. Dave has gone quiet. He's furiously typing.
I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes on this.
You're taking notes of what Gemma said.
yeah. I don't want to forget. There's been so much going on. I've been so crazy.
Do you know, it's really difficult. Like, I saw your big screed, your big criteria for the WRC qualification, and it's good. But the problem is, immediately people find things that need added to it.
True. Make time stuff. No, it's good, but I think it's good. I think it's a good conversation. I'm glad people are talking about it and people are discussing it, and there's thoughts around it. Like I feel like it's all very positive. It just leaves you with a lot to do.
Yeah,
But
it does. And I don't think people appreciate actually how much, because it doesn't feel like much comes out of it, right? The outcome is so, like, the desired outcome is that it's so smooth that nobody notices it working in the background.
yeah, I think that's really the challenge. Is like what you're building are kind of like institutions almost in a
Mm,
very kind of small way. And yeah, when an institution is good, it just works, and everyone's like, well, of course that's how it works, and it's all easy. And when you look at documents describing institutions that you're familiar with or comfortable with, and you're like, oh, writing that down is easy. I know
mhm.
how all this works. So you just write it down. It's fine. It's an easy one. And then, but when you're actually trying to build it or make it, it is hard. It takes a bunch of effort and work. And again, conversations happen around it as people look at it and say, hey, this might be an improvement or this might be better. And like again, I think
Yeah, but
that's a
as you
good
say,
thing.
yeah, you don't really notice, you can't name what's happening, you don't understand the governance structures when it's working properly. It's a bit like, when something goes wrong with your body and then suddenly you get to know the proper name for your organ or something that you
Oh
never knew,
God,
or a
yeah, yeah.
muscle, they're like, and you're like, oh no, now I know the name of this muscle, I know it's fucked.
Whenever someone's really knowledgeable about a body system or part of their body, it's either because they're super hyped for biology and anatomy or they've had a problem with it.
Yeah, right. And it's the same in politics. I know way more politicians' names than I ever had to because
Oh
they're all
yeah.
fucking us over.
That might be a little true. I don't even want to think about U.S. politics these days. It's all.
Oh no, it's just I don't know. Today's Armistice Day, obviously, so
Well, we're not having one of those.
you don't have Armistice
We
Day
don't
in
have Armistice
America.
Day. What do we
Oh,
have? We have
interesting.
something, don't we? We have a holiday. There's a
I,
holiday, isn't it? It's Veterans Day. Am I right about that?
we have something for veterans. As Armistice is separate
I
again.
don't want to think about my mic still popping.
Veterans Day is not the same as Armistice Day, though. Like,
It's like out of the way. I'm not even
Remembrance
talking directly
Sunday
into
is
it.
tomorrow.
Am I just blowing it out with volume?
Remembrance Sunday is tomorrow.
I'm gonna
Like,
turn it down a little
Armistice
bit.
is, yeah.
Maybe I'm just too loud. If it's popping, it might be because I'm blowing it out when I get hype.
We just need to buy
Pardon
new
me.
gear. I'm sure
No,
there's
I
better
need to
gear
just
out there.
like
Yeah, so
manage.
Armistice for
We have
us is
veterans. Yeah,
today,
veterans day. Veterans Day today.
and Remembrance is tomorrow for us. Yeah, Remembrance Day is always 11. No, Remembrance Day for us is always on a Sunday.
Because yesterday was Veterans Day observed. Yeah, after turning it down a bit, I think I might have just been blowing this mic. I mean, maybe I popped up the gain a little bit for a previous project. So maybe that's what's going on.
Anyway,
Let's hope it's
I'm sorry,
better.
kids, for not having a poppy on or nothing.
Oh, yeah, I can't believe you.
um, yeah, I'm sorry this is a short stream, and therefore, have we talked
We can
about an
grab.
Irish? Did Irish players just win the individual IRMC yet? No, we did not
Oh,
talk about that.
wow. Who
Zaps,
won? What
yay!
happened?
Who won it? Who won it? Who won it? And it's silence because, of course, there's a
That's really awesome.
that is awesome. Because the Irish was this your second event at the IRMC or your first event?
Oh,
And it's St.
Cincinnati Ricci
Martin's
Open
Day.
is happening, looks like.
It's a second event. I thought so. That's really awesome. You're doing better than the UK. Some may say, unsurprisingly. Yeah, I saw you were fourth in the team tournament. Is Cincinnati now? Huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cincinnati tournament's happening now.
Yeah. Do you know what's funny? Because, so, just from my perspective, the EMA drove the establishment of events, right? So it was clear that the EMA, so like there were a few like local events happening, but very few. And then the EMA set up to try and encourage more of that happening. And then more of that started happening. Whereas America's kind of gone the other way, right? The events have been happening. And now they're trying to put a structure on that,
Mm.
which presents different challenges to how EMA did it. Um, I don't know. I think because people obviously can kind of they do an event or two events or three events and they're successful and they like the way they do them. And then you've got to try and harmonize how everyone's doing it across, that's a
A little
very large
a little
geography,
bit,
the
yeah.
United States. Um, and also, I not as a slur against poor Americans, but Americans are not maybe the most consensus driven humans on the planet.
Not
Whereas,
always. No, not
you know,
always.
Europeans, especially on the continent, not the British Europeans, I'm taking us out of this conversation, but the continental Europeans are very experienced at working together and overcoming some of those sorts of obstacles, right?
I think
Um,
there's just a difference in overall attitude. Um,
mm,
USA needs a NASA for reach. Working on it. Um, but there's definitely a different attitude about how these things should be approached and what the right way is to engage with them.
mm.
I don't know. Again, good, bad, value judgments are tough, but there definitely isn't the European side of ground up like let's make an organization first. I will
Well,
say
I
that
think that was just. I think that was. I don't think there was a dry let's make one. I just think it's how it happened. I don't think that was a choice. It's just how it happened.
I feel like Europeans are more driven to organizations and consensus.
I think cooperation, yeah, but yeah, well, they kind of have to when you've got like one side of the street might be, in
Yeah.
Germany, and the other side might be in France. We kind of got to work together at that
While
point.
like in the U.S., I feel like we're far less driven that way. There's a lot more distance between people. The first thought that people have is not like, oh, let's what's it called? Oh, let's build a structure. It's I'm doing it, so I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to do it the way I like doing it, and you can't come over here and tell me how to do it.
Mm.
But I think that as there's been growth and as there's been more events, more happening, more people involved, there's definitely much more appreciation of the benefits you can get out of having a structure.
Mm.
So
It,
like it's a little different. It's a little different
the
than it
journey's
was.
different.
You know, the
Yeah.
journey's very different. And like again, back in 2015, 2016, we had a lot of people who were very individualist and were very much like, well, I have my thing and I want to keep doing my thing my way. And I
Mm.
think right now in the U.S. there's a much bigger appreciation of the value you get again for things like qualifying, for things like people are seeing, oh yeah, if we want to have a fair qualifier, if we want everyone to feel good about qualifying, it can't just be like one person picks. It can't be everyone runs tournaments however they want, and
Oh,
then
I just
somehow
want to
like
stress that for 2022, one person did not pick. There was a
no
committee
no.
decision for
But
the
like
states.
if there was literally if I was in a wasteland where there was no organized reach mahjong play in the U.S. at all, it would be in a situation where the only thing I can do is pick.
Mm.
I don't want that to be the case. That is not the case, of
No.
course, but no one wants it, So like that, we obviously need something better than that. And then once you get into better than that, it becomes how do you make a fair structure, and that becomes how do we make an organization that manages a fair structure, and all that comes naturally out of that.
Okay, Dave, I've got a question for you then, because I have
Mm-hmm.
been asked from multiple sources, and often like a little conversation happens in one part of the global Mahjong community, and then slowly it filters towards me from different directions, and then I have to work out where it came from. And I reckon this one's coming from the Americans,
Okay.
and it's double run.
Uh
People
huh.
seem to have strong opinions right now about double run, and
I
I always find this conversation interesting because the opinions are really like people are very emotional about double run.
see. Hold on. I would disagree to some degree that the USA is
Okay.
early in establishing tournament scene.
Okay.
Is coming in from chat just because
Oh
we have
yeah,
like
no,
more
you're
and
quite
bigger
slow.
events.
Yeah. Oh,
We
I
have
see what
more.
you mean.
No, yeah,
Okay.
we have more and bigger events than Europe was having when Europe was holding European. When I started ERC 2010, like the European tournament scene was smaller and less often, I think, um, than the U.S. tournament scene is now. I think in terms of like a large, I think everyone imagines this like esports level, like large, massive, multi-thousand people events, and that's just not where the player base is now. Um, but in terms of establishing a tournament scene, at least relative to other areas, like yeah, we lag behind Japan,
I mean, yeah,
but
I think for Europe as well, we're having an interesting problem as we go from what has been relatively small. Like, I mean, at one point I could go to every single event in Europe. I mean, I was living in Frankfurt, which means I had the benefit of living not centrally, but fairly, in a good transport hub. And then, but now we're at a problem where there are not enough events for a demand.
mm,
Like
yeah.
lots of the EMA events are. So yeah, you are. I think the USA is a little bit early, maybe a little bit
Well,
early.
maybe I'm just comparing it to my youth. Maybe I'm just old, and I'm like, oh, back in my day, like you were
Yeah,
lucky to get 12 people for an event, and now you could easily get 30 or 40.
I think in a few decades when you look back, you'll call this era as the early era still.
Hmm, maybe fair, maybe fair. I'm
Yeah,
just
I
remembering this
don't think.
like,
I think maybe the difference here is early to mature, and you've not matured. I don't think.
hmm, there are things that are needed for that. I think mostly around standardization and like player protection, like things like
Mm,
incident reporting and stuff like that. That we haven't. Again, I'm very happy we haven't had an incredible need for these things because we haven't had like a wild amount of bad actors or anything like that. But it's true that like making that into a mature system is important, and
mm,
then figuring out how to like build on that to go from
Yeah,
there.
and like parts like, and that's the thing as well. Different elements will reach maturity at different stages.
Mm,
If you see what I mean. And I think that's maybe where Europe is now at, that certain elements have reached a good level of maturity, but other elements have not caught up yet. And then you have a different problem where some things are functioning really well, and then the other things, there's some improvements that need to be made. And how do we, there's this gap as you transition those over to maturity,
mm.
or finding the consensus about where their destination is.
Well, again,
But
the interesting thing about coming from other more established gaming scenes is that I feel like it's hard to equate the two because Reach Mahjong does not have the same ecosystem that other gaming scenes do.
hmm,
Um,
you mean, when you say that, you mean they don't have a massive company with shit tons of money?
yeah, yeah. I mean, again, like you want to talk about Street Fighter, you want to talk about Smash Brothers, you want to talk about League of Legends, and the first thing you need
Magic
to
the
remember, Magic the
Gathering,
Gathering.
yeah.
Well, Magic the Gathering actually is interesting because Magic the Gathering was also kind of grown in a very grassroots way.
Okay, but
Magic
still,
the Gathering is a
that's
little
still a bit.
similar,
That's still a company
but
now with huge amounts of money.
oh, it is. But like
Yeah.
Magic the Gathering came from nothing by a very small company, but
Hmm.
had like an advertising budget.
Hmm.
And advertising has
Okay.
millions,
Okay.
billions of dollars,
So
like
we'll
all these.
we'll pick up your other ones then. They're more commercially
Yeah,
interests.
yeah. You want to
Yeah.
talk about Street Fighter? You want to talk about Smash? But like both of those games have a much easier. Did they come from the community? Because I don't believe Street Fighter as software was developed and released by an open source community effort. I don't believe Smash Brothers as software was written and released by an open source. Like these came from large companies, and a community grew around their love
Mhm.
of playing these games.
Yeah. Those
Um,
companies want to sell you the game, right? So
right.
by getting people to come and play it, they're getting people to
And
engage with the
I'm
franchise. They're
not
making more money. Whereas no one is making money from Richie. No one is making money.
I'm not saying this to somehow like talk poorly about the communities around those games. They're full of very dedicated people who love the games and who put a lot of work into building those communities. Like I'm not saying that's bad. What I am saying is, if it's a little easier to rollerblade down the street when your rollerblades have rockets on them, where there are these large corporate entities that want to sell their product and generally speaking, have a marketing budget to let people know about the product, to know it exists, to make it available to anyone. Like, there's so much help you get from the
Mm.
existence of a large central product like that that makes the work you put into your community go further. And to be fair, like Smash Brothers has some interesting problems here because like Nintendo, for some insane reason, is always like, "Hey, you guys have a fun community around our game that you love to play. We're gonna sue you." Like, I have no idea what Nintendo. Tangential
I have
topic,
no
but Nintendo's
comment. I have
crazy
no
and
comment.
unhelpful about these things. Um, but and again, I'm not saying this to in any way diminish the love and the effort people have put into those communities because it's very real and it's great, and I'm glad those communities have grown and succeeded. But it is important to note that like when you have, when Street Fighter comes out, if I'm a Street Fighter fan, I don't have to put in work saying how will anyone hear about Street Fighter.
And Pez,
Everyone knows.
yeah. And Pez, I want to say as well, auto table makers and tile makers are not really making money, and this is an interesting problem as well that we face. That Japan does things without this massive focus on making huge profits. They are quite happy to make things that
My people.
basically break even. None of
I mean,
those big people, none of the big stars in mahjong are drawing big salaries. None of the people who run the leagues are taking big salaries.
I think Emily has
Barely.
one not secret billionaire who just shovels money into it forever.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about to say he's not very secret. He is well known. But he's very unusual in Japan, as he has a lot of money. And do you know what he does with that lot of money? He shovels it at things because that's what's kind of expected. And I can guarantee you, he will not behave like the billionaires that you observe in the West. That's just not how they
I mean,
act. They don't. So I mean,
looking at
and like
Elon
you
Musk,
can't.
I'd say,
Yeah,
good.
you
I'm
would
glad
never
he did
have
not
any.
behave
You
like
would
that.
never have an Elon Musk, and that was always the interesting thing when you work in Japan, in that you know that your boss, he'll earn something more than you,
Yes.
but he will not earn a huge amount more than you. It just won't, because that's not seen as acceptable behavior.
And I mean, you're right, Pez, to some degree.
Yeah.
Like I think the
Oh yeah, I
especially
mean that's
coming out
yeah,
of my
I'm yeah
sectors,
yeah
like the West's fetish for like, well, your company's garbage if it can't double its
yeah
size every year. Like that's insane in a different way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And not everything has to be that way. And you're right. Like if I run a mahjong company and I sell mahjong tiles and tables and I have 50 employees and I pay all their salaries and we all
Yeah,
make a nice living and we're about break even and we're not wildly growing,
yeah.
like that's not a bad thing at all. That's fine. We
No.
have a
But the
stable structure within the
but
economy.
the problem is then when you go to them as WRC and be like, would you like to advertise with WRC and be a sponsor? They'll turn around to you and honestly say, we just don't have that kind of money.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'll point out now, I'll shout out to Alban right now. Alban have really heavily support WRC in that they have helped us with auto tables. But
hmm.
that was already a large, you know, endeavor for them.
No, that's why I was happy to
Yeah,
support them back.
it's yeah, exactly. It's not like some of these massive, it's not like if I asked Amazon, where I could expect them to give me, if I was important, a significant, it wouldn't
Yeah.
matter to them, right?
Well, it
Um,
matters, but it's like it's worthwhile to a company that large and well funded to like
mm,
drop those seats. You know, like a
mhm.
large cast seat into an event that gets their name associated with it. They feel like they'll get something back out of it eventually. It'll all loop around, and they have
Mhm.
the spare money to throw it out there. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it would be nice if
There's
there
just
was a
not there's
little
just
bit
not
more.
large money sloshing around. That's what I'm
Seriously,
trying to
sponsor by
say.
World
Yeah.
of Tanks. I mean, honestly, I'd do it. I'd do it if it got us a good event. Like, fine, sponsored by World of Tanks, whatever.
But I
Like,
mean, maybe Marshall and Soul is the big money now.
for as long as they can keep shoveling in the gotcha cash, they probably are.
Yeah, I think that's where the big money sits now. And we could have a conversation about how much of that is mahjong and how much of that is waifu gacha.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's hungry
I
for
uh
it.
I have to be honest, I did report them on Twitter because I noticed their 14-year-old character was wearing very inappropriate clothing for 14. And I heard that Elon Musk is very anti child sexual abuse material, but
Oh no,
I would
he's
like to
he's
point
he's
out that
very anti
the
that.
behavior of Twitter does not indicate such. Twitter X, whatever they call it.
I don't know if Mahjong Soul does nothing for the IRL scene. I know that obviously in IRL play is not like their focus because it's not their product, but I do know they provide some kind of sponsorships or
Oh
collaboration or
yeah,
something. Like they
I
do more
think
than
people have
nothing. I
done
don't
well.
think they do nothing.
Oh no, no, I think especially in America they've done quite a bit, right? And yes, they're collaborating with M League. I know M League have got some, and M League must cost a lot of money to run, and they're always going to need money,
Yeah, yeah,
always. There's no. I mean, that's for marketing, right? There's no other way for them to really.
yeah. But I mean, Mahjong Soul is going to do things that is going to wind up with people playing Mahjong Soul,
Mm,
one way or another, which might become like, yeah, we'll support events that'll get more people playing Mahjong, stuff like that. Like stuff like that. Yeah, IRL Mahjong things on occasion.
mm. And of course it does makes good sense for them to
Yeah, yeah. It's a
make
product.
those sponsorships. Yeah, it's a product. It's a product they're selling, but it's difficult to get that kind of buy-in from other mahjong companies, right? Because they don't have that kind of money to give us. Um,
Roasted rice milk tea.
yeah.
Cheese milk foam.
But
Interesting.
okay, but then do you can't expect them to. And now this is I'm quite okay. Like they've got I don't understand, like they're a commercial entity and they want to make a shit ton of money. Like
Yeah.
that their agenda is quite obvious.
I mean, at the end of the day, like they do want to sell more Mahjong Soul. Being involved with people, they're not stupid. So when you have big Mahjong fans, being involved with them is good for your business. Again, I'm not trying
Mm,
to say they don't care. I can't ascribe personal motivation, but like, yeah, they're a Mahjong business. Having more people play Mahjong is good for them. I don't think that they care particularly about level of play because what they care about is number of players. Level of play doesn't really matter to them. As the structure of the business. In other words,
well,
I'd
okay,
rather
but
have
even
1 million poor
yeah.
players than 10 awesome
But
players.
surely that's the same as a mahjong parlor, right? Like a
A little bit,
mahjong
yeah,
parlor
yeah. Martian
doesn't
Color too, yeah,
really care. Like a mahjong parlor would rather they had a lot of poor players who just shoveled money into the
yeah,
parlor
yeah.
than
As I said, I'm not saying this to like talk bad about Mahjong. I'm just talking about the
oh,
business structure and
yeah.
how that works. Yeah, they need as many people in the door. Um, I wish it was that easy. I wish it was that easy. I'd love to be taking people's money, um, in exchange
Community
for products
service
and
2% of
experiences that
mahjong
are of
so
value.
yeah, yeah. I'd imagine I don't know. I mean I presume the Chinese servers is severely limited in how much they can make now. Really, I would have thought that the Chinese one because they've got very strict restrictions on some of the kind of behaviors that mahjong style encourage. Japan, obviously, you can just go nuts. Nah, but Japan, like they love gacha and they love spending their money that way. So of course they're going to throw into it. Uh, yeah, good for them anyway. Good for them. I'm glad they're making money.
I've been
I
gifted
hope
some
they pay. I
on-screen
hope
boba.
they pay people properly. That's all.
You have any?
They have involvement in real life in Japan. I mean, Mahjong League probably is it. When the next Mahjong crash course is, Zaps. Oh my god. I don't know. It should be next year, shouldn't it? It should be next year.
So we got a couple exciting things about Mahjong Crash Course, right?
Have we? Dave knows more than I do. So I don't know where I got this stick from, but I'm really enjoying holding it, so I'm going to continue brandishing it
I was
around.
gifted this delicious boba, so now I'm gonna sip it once in a while.
Okay, right. Crash course. Yes, I think we should hold one next year. Yeah, there's just some, I think there's still kind of, because remember Japan really has only opened up. Was it this year? It was this year, right?
Oh, it's from a local boba place, or at least well, it's local in that they have a store near me. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
only local. It's called Wonzo, the art of
So
boba. Here,
Japan
I'll
only
advertise for
opened
you.
up in April.
Wonzo.
So Japan only opened up in April this year, and I feel like I'm still sort of hitting against a little bit of reluctance from people to make confirmations because they still think it's going to come back. Maybe it will come back. Maybe it doesn't matter if it comes back. The COVID. Yeah.
Sorry, this cheese foam's really good. So
I mean, basically, I don't. So sorry. So just to clarify, it won't be happening. So I'm not going to do it in summer because summer is hell season, and I won't go to Japan in summer ever. It's spring is also really difficult because, of course, that's when school starts for Japan and when the cherry blossom season is. So I'll be looking at November 2024.
Okay.
That would be
I'm going to take a note on that.
That would be a good time for Japan, and it would be a good lead up, I think. Because the other problem, of course, is that my attention's slightly distracted by the fact I have to start getting the WRC qualifiers in, and I have to start making sure that all my ducks are in order for the countries. I do have less activities this time round for 2025 because Tokyo are, I don't think they want my assistance. In fact, I think they think I'm an irritating person who comes in with annoying questions and they'd wish I'd go away. No, not the first British person to have made people feel that way. Was there anything else, Dave, for Crash Course? Did I say it all? Yeah, October's all right. October, November is okay. Yeah.
So
I wouldn't. I mean, the thing is, it's still hot now. Like climate change has done a number on Japan. Like someone told me it was 26 degrees Celsius at the moment, which is insane.
26 degrees Celsius. Good Lord.
Yeah, it's really Japan is really suffering from what we've done to this planet. We did have the 5th anniversary. It was a good time, wasn't it? Zaps came to my first crash course, and it was a really good time. Yeah.
I'm thinking. So one of the things that I've been gently, carefully nagging about. Well, it's true. You're right. Like most of the money, if you're going to a tournament, you got travel, which goes to an airline or a travel company. You've got hotel, which goes to a hotel, and then like the tournament gets some cut, and that's always tough. But one of the things mentioned about Crash Course that I'm gonna bring up just to nag poor Gemma is we can do a Crash Course in Japan, which is one type of thing. But I happen to have like a venue now, and at this venue, like we could host something like Crash Course here in America.
We could, Dave. We could.
And what would it take? There are two things that I really want to. There are two specific things I really want to host. I don't know how these are all like Dave fantasies. Number one is Crash Course NYC, which would be really awesome.
Crash Course would be nice. It's only 5 hours flight from here as well.
Sorry, I'm getting a few pings.
That's okay. Yeah. I mean, the only thing is you won't have the feeling of being in the dojo afterwards. That's the only.
I mean, it's a different environment, and
it'd be a different experience. Yeah.
I feel like for some people, again, first of all, there's an accessibility gap, right? Like some people traveling to Japan, like decoupling having this educational experience from traveling to Japan for a week lowers the price substantially for some people. And to some degree, I love Japan. I love being in Japan. Japan is wonderful, but it does leave your students in a more comfortable environment where they're not like, having their first, for some of them, their first experience of a very different place and also
Yeah,
trying to learn. So I think
yeah.
I in no way would say this is better than the normal crash course experience, because I don't think so. I think going there is
Mm,
amazing. I love being in the dojo. I love being in Japan, but it's a different experience that might be more accessible to some people who don't have the funds or time to travel like that, and who just, again, we'll learn more from being in a more comfortable environment where they're, less distracted and more able to absorb.
mm.
So I think there's a lot of positives there. The other thing that I'm still going to say I really want to do, as you mentioned, the environment, the thing I'd love to do would be New York City Dojo Night. Um, and this is just a straight up expense. There's no way this pays for itself. But
What's this?
this is just having the staff from Japan come run the place in New York for a few days.
No, I feel like that's a reality show, though.
A
We
little
like
bit.
film them. We film them. Like that was always my pitch for a reality show. We make Japanese train company operators come and try to operate the British railway system. I thought that'd be hilarious. And we could do the same for you. Like we'll have them and everything's smooth, and then they have to handle a bunch of Americans.
I mean, that would be if we could get that funded as an entertainment program, that would be really interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely right. Like these two things overlap a lot, so maybe it all becomes one thing. But that would be a really interesting production to do. Um,
Do you know what?
it,
This isn't the worst content I've heard. Like,
no,
I
it'd
do
be
wonder
super
whether we
interesting.
could say to JPML, like, we've got this. You like making internet content. What about this?
Yeah, I mean, Yoko, if you have folks, I'd be really happy to discuss any folks who might be interested in this. I know some folks I can talk to about it too. So if you want to, if you run it out there, it'd be greatly appreciated. Yeah, we could do that. It's funny. I'm thinking of like having a Japanese train operator come drive our trains. I feel like they'd be so angry at everything about the New York City subway, except for the part where every time the subway train stops at a stop, the conductor or the engineer has to like lean out the window and point at this board. Um,
Yeah.
they just have to do it. It's mandatory they do it. They must always do it.
Oh, well, they have to do that in Japan, yeah.
Well, that's where they took it from Japan.
Oh, did they now?
Yeah, as like a weird ritual that makes sure that it's just like a human thing of like to make sure you are
Yeah.
paying attention and focused and not just on total autopilot, that you have to go and do this thing over and over. Um, but yeah, like that would be so cool. I'd love to do that. And I'd be super psyched for that. Uh,
That's interesting. Because I was sort of, yeah, I was sort of wondering whether we should try and get some of the content online, even if it was, prep content for a crash course. I don't know, like there's a lot. It's just a lot, and that's the problem, right? You get overwhelmed by the ideas and the
oh yeah, there's
potential
so many
that then you
ideas.
do nothing. I don't know how I managed to make the first crash course happen. Even now, I think back to it, I'm like, what 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 mindset did I get myself into that became productive enough to achieve that? I need to do that. That's what I need to do. I need to get myself into that mindset.
Yeah.
I've been in
Well,
a
it's
strange
we got to get
mindset
back into the
recently.
post-COVID mindset that things we want to happen can happen,
Yeah,
as
that's you're
opposed
right.
to
It's
like
it's
nothing
it's
happens and nothing
yeah,
will ever happen.
you're right. I am in post-COVID
I wish I didn't have
malaise
a
still.
child. That is true. You have gained some large responsibilities, some important responsibilities.
Do you know what's interesting though? And I was saying this to someone, they're like, "Oh, do you find you get nothing done?" And I'm like, actually, now I'm super productive because before I'd get up in the morning and then I read a book or I'd watch a bit of TV, I play some games, I faff about. Whereas
Mm.
now I get my kid the childcare, I come home and I'm like, right, I'm going to do all the things. I'm like, "Blah, blah, blah," and then I go pick him up. So because I know
Having
I'm gonna have to spend like 18 hours of my
key support
life,
structure, yeah,
like
yeah.
like playing Duplo. We play a lot of Duplo.
I do feel like
Yeah, kids more structure. Yeah,
having tasks gets you on as long as you're not like really burning yourself out, it gets you on like a train of like task completion. Like it helps
yeah,
pull you into that mode of like I'm gonna do things, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do
yeah.
that. Like
I think yeah.
I
I
hate being
honestly
unstructured. It
like
drives me nuts.
it's weird. Like I feel like at least in my professional working, I've definitely. I used to miss deadlines. I never miss deadlines now, which is weird. Like having a kid has improved my timekeeping. Um,
Huh.
but yeah, as you said, when you're floaty and unstructured, you just
You just do whatever.
listen.
Like this is my problem with having when
Yeah,
having no job or no not going to work or things like that. Like yeah, being totally unstructured, I'm just like, I can do it any time today, so whatever.
yeah, precisely. And then you're sat there at midnight going like, "Oh, I didn't do it
Yeah, oh
again.
crap, I
Too
better
late
get
to
that
do it
done.
now." Yeah,
Yeah, it's really.
So I think, yeah, being young maybe, but having a child, I would say might have been a positive. Yeah, Zap says a night out at M Leagues. We did take. So the problem is they don't do those M League nights anymore.
Oh, that's
That's
sad.
gone. Yeah, they don't do M League nights anymore, which is really
I
tragic.
wonder if we should do M League viewing nights at Sparrow's Nest. We have all the
Yeah,
equipment for it. We could
I
run it.
don't. Yeah.
We could do it.
Hmm. But yeah, anyway, so I wanted to talk about Double Run, Dave. Talk to me about Double Run. Because I know it's coming from your people, and so I need to know what the conversation is.
All right.
Because I know it's a very emotive subject,
This is
which
going to be a
makes.
patented Dave hot take. Dave's going to cut loose right now.
Okay, but can I hear the background and then the hot take? Like why are people talking about Double Run? Like it's so. I mean, it's not an unusual case. I want to stress it's not
It's
an
not so
unusual
unusual
case.
that you'll never happen. Like, people talking
No.
about whether or not Dai Shouted should be a Yakuman is like, okay, who freaking cares? Like, this is like, fine, fine. Let them all be Yakuman. When you get one, call me, and then we'll hash it out live. Like, you're right. Double run is a situation you will encounter again, like once or twice an event is really kind of the rate that people have quoted, and I think that's about right. It will happen. It will happen. It's not nowhere.
So
And
let's
I
let's
think,
let's 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 do our terminology first. Double Run means
hmm.
that both players are allowed to win.
Well, let me back it up a
Yeah.
step.
Head
Let's
head
back it up a
bump
step here.
head bump is that only one player is allowed to win.
A player discards a tile,
Hmm.
and in most situations they'll get away with it, and the next player will draw. But in some situations, someone at the table will win on the tile, and usually it's only one person. But sometimes it will come out that two people at the table both can win on that tile, and they will both declare victory.
Hmm.
Sometimes it can even happen, and this is much more rare, all three other players at the table wanted that tile, and they all declare victory. And the question is, what do you do? And the answer is, generally speaking, there are two methods that people do that kind of make sense as to how you handle this. One is called head bump, and head bump says that the player who is closest to you in player order is the player whose win counts. And the other two players are told, nope, you did not win.
No,
This
no.
person
So
won.
Triple Run typically
For triple
is a
run,
draw.
for triple run, yeah, triple run, the typical thing is a draw. If everyone else wins, it's just that never happened. If in a situation with two players, well, head bump. Well, I'm sorry, head bump prevents double and triple run, right? Or does head bump still have triple run?
Yeah, you're right. Head bump does prevent.
Head bump prevents all other situations. If there's ever more than one person winning, the next person in play order is the one who actually wins, and the other one or two players are told, "Sorry,
no, sorry. I
win."
want to. You can have it so triple run makes the draw happen, and head bump is only applied to a double run situation. Sorry, I'm going to try
Oh,
to.
it's gross.
So
Okay.
no. It's, I mean, again, this is yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
inconsistent. It's just inconsistent.
I mean, a lot of this is coming from a little bit of a superstitious mindset. It's the same thing as when you throw four wins that are all the same. The only reason to reset is because of superstitions.
Hmm.
Mm.
That makes sense.
Mm.
But in double run, I'm gonna say multi run. Well, let's use their multi. In multi run, all the winning hands will win. Now, double run oftentimes still maintains that if three people, if it's a triple run, it's still a draw. But if two people win at the same time, you will pay out both of those hands, and there's some way of resolving who gets Humba, who gets reach sticks, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now, broadly speaking,
Curly's already shared a hot take, so I want to hear Dave's hot take, and then I'm going to read Curly's hot take.
well, my hot take is more structural. My hot take is people get really, really, really fussy about these kind of edge casey rules that don't have a massive impact on play without focusing on the core things that are much more important for play. Like the difference between me winning and losing a tournament, the broad holisticness of my play is whether or not double run was on. Like, I could do much better improving my average tournament outcome by just getting better at Mahjong.
Okay, I agree with that.
Fussing over whether it's head bump or double run. Like,
I might disagree with you that this is an edge case.
It could happen in like a clutch moment of like I'm at the top table and something. Yes, that's possible, and I'm not going to discount that. But I just think overall, I feel like people get really fussy over these very edge case rules, thinking that this is how they're going to define the optimal play environment when they could do a lot better by just like focusing on core fundamentals and not fussing about it. Because if I tell any pro player who comes out to an event will just ask, what are these set to? And then you'll tell them and they'll be like, okay.
I mean, yeah, I
Like,
think, yeah, I think
none of them are going
sometimes
to be like, I
people,
can't believe you're doing this.
yeah,
This is, you know, like,
there's a bit of a hunt for the holy grail of rules that I'm afraid does not exist. Or if you find it, it's going to be like
but
it's yeah, it's
to be,
you're gonna have a eternal youth or something.
everything seems okay. Um, but to be fair, I think I just started talking louder. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
I
my
think it
mic is
just
really
focus
loud.
on day.
Maybe it
Yeah, I
might
think
be.
it's and it might be some weird. Anyway, Curly says head bump. I
Oh
understand
man.
for people who don't want
Oh
high
wow.
variance in their tournament structure, but to say that I say they're cowards to go play chess if you don't want variance, which is yeah. I mean that's yeah. It's
Oh sweet. Right.
definitely one perspective
Okay.
that people have definitely shared. Um, I guess when I talk to people about it, I think there's a few things that goes missing from the conversation.
Hmm.
The first thing that goes missing is people are hyper focused on double run that they neglect what should happen in triple run. And of course, in
Mm. Mm.
most of the cases that they've been playing, triple run results in a draw. So they're only focusing on double run because they think that if two players can win, then they should be able to both get their points. Um, and the other thing that gets neglected is, of course, whether the bankruptcy is turned on. And these are complementary rules. Usually, that's how you should view them. In that, if bankruptcy is on, I think double run is a fine rule to implement
Mm.
because at that point it's okay. That player was an idiot, maybe they're an idiot, and they threw in to two people, and the argument being then that they should be punished. Okay, your bankruptcy's on. Okay, so then the game will likely shut down if they're really out, and we go and
Mm.
play another game, and that's great. And this is why often you see it in mahjong parlors. The problem you have is if someone gets double run when there's no bankruptcy and they sink so low, you then have a whole hand chan to play with a player who isn't really playing the game
Yeah,
anymore.
they're like fishing for Yakuman, and that's it. Yeah, my game is way too high on this one.
You know, and that's a real risk when you're looking, depending on your tournament format, right? If your tournament format is one where you're doing like best 16, best 8, best 4, and this is again, and I keep it's really difficult because I'm going to keep bringing in other external factors, and the
What's
issue
wrong
with
with that?
mahjong, when we're playing in Japan especially, is that often these games, these exhibition tournaments outside of a mahjong parlor, are being played for an audience, and no one wants to see three players game be destroyed by one person who's like, well, I just have to Yakuman every single time, double Yakuman, let's get. And case, what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that, but all I'm saying is
Well,
that
there's nothing
these
wrong with people playing the game differently based on the context of what
hmm.
happened, but at the same time, like,
But then that's what I said. It's a terrible game to watch.
it's a terrible game to play it. It's not
Terrible. Yeah.
enjoyable.
No, I mean I'm fine. I'm okay. Like even these professionals, they should be out. But it is a terrible game to watch. Everyone is miserable, and this is an interesting. There was an interesting conversation, and I should dig it out. Did I write a blog entry or did I fail? I probably failed, but I think I shared it with you, Dave, where there was this long conversation about the final hand and
Oh
how
yeah, it
to
was from the
improve,
Kuroki row, right?
yeah, improve that for the audience, because the problem of course is that the last dealership has an immense amount of power, and you often get into situations anyway where you're basically just watching two people duke it out. um
Well,
but
I don't
yeah,
know if that's necessarily innately bad, but
and okay, and I want to come from another perspective here, in that when people say, well, that player was bad and they threw into two people, right? I think that actually double atamahane, head bump, allows for good players to also show their skill, right? Because if you're a really good player, you should probably have an idea of the value of the hands that you may be throwing into. Now, if you think that the player closest to you has a low value hand, and the person who, the subsequent person to that player who might be winning, has a high value hand, it makes sense to throw the tile and know you're only going to be paying that 1,000 point hand because you've read the table properly.
I feel like
So,
we've touched on a bunch of different topics
yeah.
here,
Yeah,
all of
I
which
know
are good and
I
important.
mean, yeah, it's a lot. It's a big, long conversation, and I'm not going to tell anyone that no, double run is wrong, double run is right. I think that you really have to look at the context and the behaviors that you want to encourage from your players, and also whether you're providing. So if if you're grinding the ladder on Mahjong Soul, or you're going to a Mahjong parlor, you know, things like double run make a lot more sense. Um,
I think
because yeah,
there's
people like seeing points go brr.
it also matters Now, and to be clear, I'll also agree. Like, I don't really feel so strongly about either way. Like, if someone told me, "Well, our event has
Mm,
double roan," I'm not going to be like, "Well, I would never play in that event." Like, it
yeah.
is what it is. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I think when I think about these things, I'm thinking about it from looking at a lower skill perspective.
Mm,
And when you look at a lower skill perspective, you don't want one player at the table with negative 30,000 points because they're just going to keep throwing in. They're just going to throw into everyone because they have to. They need to make, they don't have the patience or the training to sit there and be like, well, I'll finish this game really bad and I'll try to make it up next game. They're just going to play like a crazy and go for Yakuman every time. And when you have a low skill player going for Yakuman every time, what you really have is a table that becomes, how can the other three players get infinite points out of this one player who is now effectively a random tile dealing machine?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you end
Or
up with a tournament where after round one, you find someone at the top of the ranking plus 200 because they were able to exploit Captain Dealin over there,
yeah.
and your whole tournament is now off balance because there was no limit, there was no maximum, and the player who now has to make Yakuman isn't a high level player trying to skillfully acquire as much points as they can with all of their defensive senses and lack of just giving points away intact, but someone who, I hate using this phrase, someone who's tilted and it's just like, well, I decided to just play for Kokshi for the rest of the tournament. So now, again, I'm a random tile dealing machine, plinkoing my way from table to table. High level players farming newbies in tournaments will happen to some degree,
Mm,
which is why I actually also really strongly feel like when you have a very mixed level tournament, you should have bankruptcy. Because
mm,
then there's only so much you can get out of that one player who just can't help but deal into everything because they're new and they're learning. And this isn't about making fun of them for being bad. Once you get a more careful skill level, you can say, yeah, we don't care about there being a point limit because if you're dealing into people all the time, it's because you're making mistakes and you're expected not to. And if that's how your event works, maybe that's how it works. I think maybe I just have personal memory of being at events. I think there was one European Championship that worked that way. Like after round 2 or 3,
mm.
there was someone who was like plus 300.
Oh, so yeah, well, was it a
I think it was
triple or quadruple
2014.
Yakuman? No, it wasn't 2014. It was earlier than that. Yeah, that was the motivation because yeah, I think they got like a triple or quadruple Yakuman in their like second game or something. And it's not that they played badly; they just didn't really do anything after that, and
You don't want to.
that became a problem, right? That and this I think the Uma was low at that point still as well, so the Uma wasn't really impacting the final scores that
But
much,
you guys had a
maybe.
really heavy. You guys had 3015 Uma for a while, right?
Yeah, do you know what? I can't remember when
Or
these things
3010,
happened. I
3010.
would, yeah, someone would have to remind me when I'd have to
I
look
remember in
back.
2014 it was like that. In 2014,
Yeah, in
there was someone who
2014 it
just
was
like rocketed
3010.
to the top
Oh, do
really
you know what?
quickly.
Maybe yeah, we had a low Uma and then we put in a high Uma because of partly because of this experience that we had. Yeah, this very ridiculous like Yakuman hand that basically there was it ended up, you know, six hand chan. None of us really needed to play.
Yeah, it just becomes like, why are we even here and doing this? Because someone's already won. And like, it's true. Yeah, a good player will get more points and do better in the tournament, but like, you kind of don't want. Um,
Oh, Curly, I agree with that. I agree with that comment hard.
I
Yes.
could say yes, yes. At the end of the day, yes, because if you play a game with just table points where all you care
Yeah,
about is the
yeah,
placement at the table,
yeah,
then yeah, it does not matter at all
yeah.
how many points you feed to people from double
But
roan. It's fine.
uh,
You're in last place. You're in last place. Who cares?
but then let me give you some more context to that, Curly. I mean, obviously the way to kind of stop that is to have knockouts. To have, you know, so then your Yakuman gets lost in whatever window. Yeah, you move
Yeah,
up to the
knockouts and
next,
resets.
you move on to the next bracket, you move on
Yeah,
to the next
yeah.
bracket. So yeah, okay, so that person just decimates that bracket, but it's fine because then we're going to move on to the
Then
next
we're gonna
bracket.
have the next bracket.
However, the problem in Europe is people want to play round robin because they want to play for 2 full days. They don't want to find out that they've been knocked out in the first two, three, four hand chan,
Well, frankly, it's not even
and that
Europe.
the and well, okay,
Nobody
I mean,
does.
yeah, no, but I mean, but the €1,000 they paid to come here,
Yeah,
it's that it's over. It's over within a morning. They don't want to do that.
yeah.
So, um,
I
mm,
disagree. Well, it depends on what your goal is with the tournament, but I agree
yeah,
that yeah, if you want people to have fun, and if I'm going to hold a tournament in New York and people are going to spend money to fly here and stay here, yeah, if they play 2 games, I'm like, well, too bad, see you later, bye. Like that's awful. That's a bad experience for them. That's not the experience that we want to give. I
mm,
think if you're looking to quantify skill, you want a tournament with knockouts and things like that. If you're looking to find the best way to quantify skill, and that's why every tournament, every event is a balance between
mm,
finding the event that is best, that's the perfect skill filter, and the event that's actually fun for people to play.
Mm,
And there's a balancing act here.
mm.
And it's
And
fine. That's just natural. That's just what it means to run
yeah,
an event.
but we have it easy in Europe and America because we're not actually having to consider an audience.
Mm.
And one of the big problems, in Japan is that most people who are into mahjong now do not actually play mahjong. They are watching mahjong. It's becoming much more like football/soccer, whatever we're calling it today. In that, you know, most people who watch Everton or Arsenal or Manchester United probably don't play football
I
all
could
that
play for
much,
them.
if ever, right? So then at that point, you have to create content that is interesting for the audience, and then you've got a whole new stakeholder in your in your group of people you have to consider as you're building your format, you're selecting which rules options to have on and off. But this is kind of why I push back when people say, "Oh, double run is wrong." This, or head
Yeah.
bump is correct, or head bump is wrong. All of this, because no, none of them are wrong.
None of them are wrong. None of them are
Yeah, they
wrong.
might be wrong depending on your goal.
And like, yeah, to be super clear, like I'm an opinionated as heck person, and I'll argue strong. I personally prefer head bump to double run. If you ask me which I wanted, I'd say I want head bump. But no, double run is not wrong. There are plenty of valid
Mm.
reasons to use it. And someone who, again,
Mm.
I will passionately debate with someone why I think my thing is better, but this is definitely in the realm of your thing is not evil or bad or
I,
inappropriate.
if I'm playing the bankruptcy on, if I'm just playing, yeah, grinding away on run, or whatever, and bankruptcy is on, I think I prefer double run personally. If bankruptcy is on,
Stream terminate. Sorry, you're off the stream. I can't share a stream with someone who's a double run person.
only if
Yeah.
bankruptcy is on. But then this is why I'm back to these complementary rules, right? But it's a yeah. I mean, but your content build. But you say that, but like I quite find the sheer disappointment of the person who loses to the head bump. I find that quite amusing.
I'm I'm actually I'm gonna say I am okay with double run past a certain skill level, because I do believe past a certain skill level, if you're dealing a tile that you know is dangerous on two people,
No, no, but
you
then,
you
but
must
like,
be
no, no,
aware
no, no,
of
no,
that
no. Yeah,
risk.
but then I just said to you, like, I feel that if you're very skilled, then you should know the approximate values of the hands that these people are waiting for, and therefore,
Oh,
head bump allows you to express that skill, as Curly said.
in the rare situation you want a sashikomi, like sure, am I allowed to say that word? Is that the forbidden
Well, you
stream
shouldn't be
word?
using Japanese words anyway. You can
In the
quite
rare situation that you deliberately want to deal into someone, sure, that is a way to express that
and
skill. Um,
deliberately dealing in is not uncommon.
I've never done it. I mean, I've never dealt in any anyway, like ever, not even once. But if I were to deal in, it wouldn't be deliberate.
I may have dealt in to cheap hands, knowing that it would end the game and I would be the top player. Of course, I
Oh no,
have.
that's one of my key strategies in
Yeah.
tournaments. Actually, isn't straight up dealing in, but it's like deliberately holding and then scattering dragons and valuable honor tiles so that people will call them because they're desperate to win a hand and
Yeah,
then they'll
yeah,
win a
yeah.
cheap
And,
little
and
hand.
then you see it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, like, and I feel like the really
Oh,
skilled players will not freak the hell out. They'll work out how they make the rules work for
yeah.
their ends.
At the end of the day, if you want to be good, if you want to be really good, you take in the rules and you figure out you get comfortable with how it's going to affect the play environment, which just comes from experience.
Hmm.
And then you're like, yeah, okay, it's a double run environment, so I know what to do here. Then the other thing, tell that's what you like.
I'm up for quad run.
That is a bold move, quadruple run,
Anyway,
quadruple run.
I look forward to hearing the outcome of the discussions from America. I will be watching with avid interest.
Yeah,
I think
again,
it's interesting because I think some of the stuff that they're suggesting is actually in the latest in the upcoming WRC
in
revision
the upcoming
anyway.
WC revisions,
So
yeah.
where I think we're changing it. This isn't secret information, so it's fine.
And I think
But we're
just to
changing it so that
broadly,
you can reach when you don't have your own draw left, stuff
which
like
I also
that.
think is a very finicky rule. It seems a little weird to be able to reach with no downside, but sure.
Um, yeah, I mean, to be honest, the main motivation to allow it is that you get you get too many chombos from people who
Yeah,
who reach
yeah.
not realizing they didn't have a draw left, and then
Simplifying.
yeah, and a chombo for that, and it just ruined everyone's. We've played through an entire hand, and then there's going to be a
Yeah.
chombo for that.
Everyone's disappointed because it seems kind of dumb and not that big of a deal, really. And like,
Mm. So
I mean, that's why I don't like Triple Roan being a reset, just because like it just sucks. It just
anyway,
sucks
yeah,
to get to the point everyone built their hand, everyone's hype, and I was like, oh well, the hand didn't happen
yeah,
because you all were too good at making this hand.
yeah. I
Okay,
don't know. I really found that when we had it that, or or like discarding the same wind would reset the hand. Ah, I was like, I've just built the wall. Are you kidding me?
that's its own kind of frustrating. Although
Uh,
that at least requires all at least like 2 or 3 players to have directly agreed that they want to do this.
yeah, and then there's that one player sitting there, and I just wanker.
That's why I always discard 5 mana as my first discard, so no one will ever get the all 4 wins. It's a strong statement of condemnation of that tactic.
But yeah.
Um,
Anyway, but I was glad to see that some of the upcoming updates anyway are sort of being the Americans are pushing for. I feel validated now because I was a bit like, oh god, how are some of these revisions going to be taken? So you never know. I
hmm.
find like some of the most for me, to my ear, some of the most reasonable sounding stuff gets some of the weirdest pushback, and you're like, huh, what a curious hill to die on. Okay.
No, I think it's all a very good conversation. Again, like I can debate this stuff very passionately because I have
Mm,
feelings about it, but I think this is we're all talking about things within a realm of very sane, very reasonable rules mods that people like or don't like. I think it's really great that people are having the conversation
mm,
and that there's a willingness to like to engage with it and to talk about it. So no, I think it's great that this is
mm.
happening.
But another thing I've learned from the American conversation is I don't think that our WRC modifications options document landed as well as initially we hoped.
Hmm. I
Um,
could see it needing a little bit of cleaning up.
yeah, do you know what? I think, I mean, a smorgasbord of things that you can and can't do sounds great until you're sat there with the smorgasbord having to work it out. And I think that probably we would have been better off just coming out with a WRC B rules.
That's possible.
And I think that's now the direction we'll go for 2024. Just, lots of people complain about WRC rules because the penalties are too harsh. They are not too harsh in the context with which I guess the main
In
focus
the
of their
context
play
of
was.
WRC.
Yeah. But yeah, I entirely agree that they're, and that's every time says, oh, they're too harsh. I'm like, well, you should definitely reduce them for your event because I agree they're too harsh. Um, so yeah, so I kind of think to make things easier for people just to pick it up and say, right, we're playing this, we will release a document, a rules set that allows people to do that. I think that's important.
Kansai Chitoi. Is that what the name is? I played in an event with Kansai Chitoi the other day.
uh,
Again, like it's fine. It's not such a common thing that it's going to wildly
oh
change what you
really?
do
Do you know
every
what?
hand.
It's weird though because of course we've got a lot of MCR players. It's historically been a fairly common chombo in Europe.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah. As it is,
Do
do it in Kansai. Troll is a true Tokyoite. No one
it
will
in
sucker for him.
So let's see what else is going on.
I'm gonna have to go soonish because I
Well,
have
we
to
got
go
some
get
good news. I'm
ready.
gonna I'm gonna plug my stuff, guys.
Yeah,
Here we
Yoko,
go.
Kyoto for me
Woo.
too. Kyoto for me.
We're doing a grand opening party.
Whee! Did you change the date
So
by the way?
yes, we did change the date. The
Okay,
date
good.
is going to be no December 8th is our
Oh,
grand opening party date. Here we go. December. You can see December 8th, 6 through 10 p.m. Eastern. So what's going on? We are on the move at Sparrow's Nest. We are moving from special events and by appointment only to having regular open hours. Actually, starting this coming week is a bit of a soft launch. So we're going to be open. I believe it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from
wow,
4 p.m. to 10 p.m.
wow.
Staffed, and people can come and play mahjong if there's enough for you to make a table. And hopefully we'll have plenty of people because we've had a pretty good crowd.
How many auto tables do you have at Sparrow's
I
Nest
have
Day?
6 auto tables at
Six.
Sparrow's Nest right now. We have my Ultima, my Rex, and well, they're all mine. We have the Ultima. We have the Ultimate that I've had for a long time, the Rex, and then the 4 Slims, which can play all styles. So what is that? That's Japanese, Chinese, and what's it called? American.
And NMJL? Yeah.
And yeah, well, any American variant we have the tiles for. So we have all this stuff, and we are going to be, again, we're going to be open regular hours. We're going to have staff members there. We got snacks and drinks now that we can sell there if you're hanging out for a while.
And Dave, this
Um,
this this banner, Dave actually has that artwork as a
yes,
mural
that,
on
this is
his
this is
wall.
a picture of the wall of the studio. You can see the tables in front of it. So
And
that's our big
that
cool
was
wall
drawn
mural
by a
there.
Hong Kong artist.
Karen Aruba. Karen
Yeah,
Aruba.
she's an amazing. Her is it her grandfather or her father?
Her father. Her
Her father
father.
does hand carving of tiles still in Hong Kong, and so but she's kind of been building up this sort of like art work, sort of. I'm not sure what you call it. I
Well,
don't know.
she has an art practice around it. She's an
Yeah, she has.
artist
Yeah,
and
she's
she
not
works
practicing
with
around
tiles
mahjong.
and
She
yeah.
works with tiles, but that's not her only medium. I guess is what I'm trying to say. She also
Mm-hmm.
does artwork like this, but it's always with a mahjong lens.
Yeah.
So it's been
Yeah.
really exciting for Dave to get this.
And Karen's actually going to be here. We have this pretty much locked in. Karen's going to be here at near the end of March of next year
Mm.
to do a mahjong tile, not a carving class, like a coloring class.
Mm-mm-mm.
So with some custom carved tiles, and it'll go through how to like prepare them with coloring and inking them, and you'll students in this class will be able to make their own mahjong tiles basically, which is pretty darn cool. And we don't have signups open for that yet, but I'll let people know as soon as we do because it's going to be fairly limited, and it's kind of like a really unique thing to have Karen here to do this, and hopefully we can have some other guests as well. He said, looking at his co-host.
Oh, can I be a guest?
You can for sure be a guest. It would be great to have you here.
Can I do Suji training? I only want to do Suji training.
Isn't Suji training just you scowling at everyone and growling, "There is no Suji"?
No, no, no. The way they think Suji is wrong.
Long Suji is the only Suji.
Ah,
Right.
to be fair, no one has said that to me recently, so I'm pretty chill right now. But yeah, no, it's Suji. It's just the best.
Don't believe her lies.
Everybody-
Suji training.
I didn't do the Suji training Cardiff, and I did lie. It's true, I did lie.
Oh
But
no!
do you know what the problem you forget about tournaments is how long they go for.
Yeah.
And then you need to eat as well
The
and
events
look
are
after your
big.
human needs.
So if you're interested in attending the grand opening party, we have this on Eventbrite, or if you go to the Sparrow's Nest Studio website.
How much does it cost? Why is it $7.37? It's a
Oh, it
strange.
doesn't. Oh, yeah. There's a grand opening celebrate with us link right here. You can click to get to our grand opening. The cost is the entrance in a short form East only tournament.
Oh, okay.
So it's free to attend. You just got to show up. You want to come and hang out, show up. The place is free for the time, and we're gonna have a little tournament, little 10% tournament with some tiny prizes and stuff like that. So we're really excited about it. We are getting ready to do PAX Unplugged the weekend before, so we're gonna be fresh back from a convention.
Dude, you're busy.
Yeah, I know, it's real friggin' busy. So I need to figure out how to do anything about that. But yeah, this is why I've had a tough time streaming for the past few weeks. We've been super busy, just doing a ton of things.
Wow.
With super help from our great staff, who hope, you know what we should do? We should get a staff members page up to show the people who are helping out, because they're wonderful and they've been putting a ton of effort in, and I super appreciate them, and I want to give them all the credit and shout outs that they deserve. Which is
You
a whole
really
lot.
should just have a pedometer for how much pacing you've done since the start of this.
It's maximum. Just have a kid. I
Just have
I
one day.
can't-
Just do it.
I can't do that without someone's cooperation. Yoko, again, if you're curious about that, you can ping me on USPML Discord. We'll see what we can do about that. I think we are actually full up for staff right now because we can't really pay people yet. But we can see if there's something that would be useful to do.
Is this how Magic the Gathering started, right?
A little bit. Oh, Magic Gathering started with a product.
Do they pay their staff at events still? Not all of them, right? Some of them
I
are
don't know.
volunteers.
I've never done a Magic event, so I don't actually know what that looks like for people participating.
Magic the Gathering. What a weird brand to have gone popular. It's just the Magic
weird.
the Gathering. I know why they couldn't just use Magic the Gathering.
Well, Magic, I feel like, was a very impromptu product that kind of came.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is you can tell that a large number of marketing executives did not sit down and work that name out for them, is what I'm saying.
It's all right.
Yeah,
we don't care
Curly,
about Magic. We're all about Lorcana now. Lorcana is the only game we have to worry about. You know, the One Piece card game has been making a real marketing push. I think One Piece in general has been.
Are we allowed to talk about One Piece? Because I thought that the internet was very angry that a bunch of people who were not canonically Japanese are also still in the live show, not Japanese.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's. I remember. Yeah, they had Deckmaster at the bottom for a long time, and I guess they had this idea of doing multiple themes, and then the first one worked, and they were like, "Well, we can either keep doing this incredibly successful product or try something else."
I
And then
remember when
like
the kids first came onto the bus with those magic cards, and we were like, "What are you doing?" If only I bought a few packs back then.
seriously. And then I remember, and then there was like the great era, and I feel like this happens with so many games. Like Magic the Gathering happens and it gets wildly popular, cool, and then everyone's like, "Oh, let's make exactly that." And there's like this whole pile of other games that get like thrown at the wall and just bounce off because like none of them, everyone's playing the one they like. It's like World of Warcraft and MMOs. Everyone's like, an MMO, they're making a lot of money with that. Let's
Hmm.
all make an MMO, and then they all died. Like
Yeah,
the
it's
only
funny,
one
right?
that didn't die is the Final Fantasy ones
Yeah, I mean,
because
you
like
dragged me into 14 kicking and screaming because I was like, why would you play something that's not WoW? Everyone plays WoW. And
well,
then,
but Final Fantasy survived just because I think Final Fantasy is enough of its own machine that
yeah.
people are like, I like Final Fantasy. And so if I like an MMO, there's a reason for me to want to play the Final Fantasy one as opposed to WoW. And so that's enough to keep that alive. And I mean, and again, FF14 is a good game and et cetera, et cetera. But like a lot of even the Star Wars one died.
Yeah, it did, didn't it?
It just died. The only other one that didn't die was Eve. But
Uh,
Eve provides like a very unique experience that is not WoW. So you play Eve because you want that unique experience. It's very not
I
WoW, and you can't
still
get somewhere else.
didn't understand why no one attempted an MMO of Harry Potter. That entire world screams MMO to me.
Maybe they couldn't
No?
get the licensing.
Yeah.
Well, FF14 failed at launch because it was just straight up bad. Um, to be honest, and then had to be like rebuilt to be good.
I had my thought about Harry Potter, by the way, before J.K. Rowling became who she is today, an angry woman.
I feel like it's not. Yeah, you need to get the licensing, and you need to convince the level of development needed for that is large. And I think at the end of the day, it would have failed too,
Yeah, it's just
just
because
like everything else.
it was there. It was at its peak whilst the big boom of MMOs was happening, and they had obscene amounts of money, like infinite amounts of money at that point, right? Like they could just,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they still have obscene amounts of money,
But I feel
but
like I
yeah.
feel like what you have to commit to make a game like that work is so weird,
Mm.
and you need a level of expertise in like design and player engagements that you can't really build from. It's hard. It's a hard
Again, but
thing.
again, I will say again, Britain being one of the big powerhouses of gaming. Again, I was just like, lots of things. Someone must have had a conversation about it. Big
They
wigs
must
must have spoken about it, and I would love to know the decision that went into making.
have.
No, no, we're not going to do this. Mm. When's the next Grand Theft Auto coming out? That's what I want to know.
I'm looking at it. You're making everyone look like the hardest thing you can. It is. It's an incredibly difficult thing because there's so many pieces that go into it.
Mm. And yeah, I mean, I've now invested years of my life into 14. Me and Bex, I don't know if I could ever leave him. We've been a long way together.
Well, yeah, there's a huge amount of like just existing attachment. And I feel like a biggest challenge with games like MMOs is how, and even Blizzard is complaining about this, which I find really funny. Um, but they're not wrong. Like this insatiable demand for constant new content. Everyone wants more new, more new, more new, and it's not easy to supply that with anything.
Hmm.
With any game, you can't. There's no way to keep players like constantly entertained with immediate new things. And so like it's hard. It's hard. The games industry is really hard.
I hope if they're going to do a Final Fantasy VIII remake, they also remake the story to not be quite as silly.
No.
That's a hot take. Hey, to be fair, the Final Fantasy VII remake, they did really well, I think, at polishing some of the rougher corners of that story. I think they could do it for eight.
Nine. Nine would be a good. Everyone loves nine. I never played nine. I looked at nine. I heard very good things about nine. For some reason, it just never grabbed me for some reason.
Yeah, we all know they're going to remake 10. Of course they're going to remake 10 because everyone likes that silly girl in Japan, and I hate her. What's her name
Who?
again?
Who?
The silly girl does the dance in the water.
Yuna?
Yeah, that's her. And they had the song by Tada Hikaru.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. 10 will be the one that they're going to put on the top of their list. Why we make 10? Because they can make huge amounts of money.
Oh yeah, I think they make 10 HD, 10 remaster, 10 remake.
Right.
You just keep grinding out. And again, this is great ways to get new content in front of people. It's not new content and it's not totally new, but it's like nostalgia content.
Yeah, I don't think I think 8 has a huge nostalgia base in the West. I don't think that the nostalgia base for 8 is quite as strong in Japan.
I
The
mean, just
nostalgia base
remake
for
it.
10 is huge. 7, 10, 6, obviously. 6 has got a massive nostalgia base. Um,
We are talking about your
yeah.
beautiful Eventbrite page. We're talking about the opening party. Welcome back.
Oh, it's a wonderful
Well, now we're
Eventbrite
talking about Final
page.
Fantasy. We're talking about the opening party.
There'll
I
be
mean,
no Final Fantasy at the opening event.
there could be.
It could be.
I mean,
Okay.
if people really want it to be, we could set something up. But like,
I wish I could be there for it too, but
you
do you know
could
what?
just
I need to.
fly on over.
I can't because I got to redo my passport, and I live in a shit country where it's going to take like 12 weeks. So I
Why
have
is
to
it gonna
get
take
on with it
12 weeks? What?
because this is a failed state. I know people don't believe me. This place is not. It probably won't take quite 12 weeks, but it probably will take 8 weeks.
8 weeks?
Yeah,
No.
yeah. The last one I applied for, which was last year, and it wasn't for me, it was for someone else, but that was 6 weeks.
You can get one in 2 weeks
Oh.
with this urgent renewal guide.
Uh, yeah, no, because you've got to get a appointment for that, and the appointments don't actually exist, but they'll take your money as if the appointments exist. Don't worry, I've been through this. It's ridiculous. It's just it's just obscene. Everything about it is
This
obscene.
is why I
Anyway,
like America. We do ours in
I'm going
24
to apply.
hours.
That's what I'm talking about. You used to be able to do that in the UK. I got mine in 24 hours last time I did it, which was in 2014 actually.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, 10 years I've got to get a new one.
Oh yeah, we'll get some closing remarks. It'll
Anyway,
just be an
I'm
FF14 dungeon. I'll just run a dungeon for everyone. And be like, here's my
I'm gonna
closing remarks.
go and get ready for my
Okay,
party.
get ready
Not
for your
my
party.
party, someone else's party, but I'm attending that
No, it's
party.
the party you're at, and that's what makes it
Yes.
your party.
All right, there we go. Anyway, wow, a lot of people came in and listened to our nonsense. I'm really
Yes,
sorry.
no, thank you so much for listening to us as we babble. We'll get back to actually reviewing Mahjong soon. Although next weekend I'm actually flying.
Oh, so we're not doing next weekend
Yeah,
either.
we're not gonna be able to stream next week because I'm gonna be in the air going to California for Thanksgiving.
Well, now that you are between jobs, we could do a weekday one.
We could. I don't know if people can watch on weekdays. That's the only challenge for that.
Well, but if you do it on my time, then we could catch the Europeans.
Weekday evening, maybe. I'm open to streaming more. It's all good.
Anyway, well, we'll talk about it later.
We'll figure it out. But thank you for joining
Granny.
us. I'm gonna jump back
Thanks,
to our
Gyoko.
big
Thanks,
camera.
Pez. Thanks, Doot Doot. Thanks, Troll.
And yes,
Thanks, Pez.
Come to our grand opening if you can. I'd love to see you there. Otherwise, maybe we'll film something there that we can share. And yeah, thanks for chatting.
Thanks, Curly. Yeah.
And rules.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your own opinions. It's really interesting to hear other people's thoughts and have that robust conversation.
Right.
Thanks, apps.
See you all later, and
bye.
hopefully at some point in person. Right, bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.